Your cooking is too old-fashioned for modern customers, Marcus said coldly, sliding the partnership dissolution papers across the marble kitchen counter. Bella Rosa needs fresh blood, not your grandmother's recipes. I stared at my business partner of 8 years, my hands steady despite the shock. The industrial kitchen around us hummed with the afternoon prep work, unaware that everything was about to change. Steam rose from the pasta station where Tony worked, oblivious to the betrayal unfolding steps away. My name is Sophia Chen, and at 36 I had spent nearly a decade building Bella Rosa from a tiny neighborhood bistro into Portland's most celebrated Italian-Asian fusion restaurant. Every dish on our menu told a story of my heritage, blending my Chinese grandmother's techniques with Italian traditions I'd learned studying in Rome. 8 years of partnership, and this is how you want to end it? I asked, keeping my voice level despite the anger building inside me. Marcus leaned against the stainless steel prep counter, his expensive suit looking out of place in our working kitchen. At 42, he had the smooth confidence of someone who'd never doubted his place in the world. When we'd first partnered, his business connections and my culinary skills seemed like the perfect combination. The investors want a complete rebrand, he continued, not meeting my eyes. Modern molecular gastronomy, not your comfort food approach. We're bringing in Chef Laurent from New York to redesign everything. I almost laughed at the irony. My comfort food had earned us 2 James Beard nominations and a waiting list that stretched 3 months. But Marcus had always been embarrassed by our success, preferring flashy concepts over substance. And my recipes? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Will be replaced with contemporary techniques. The new menu launches next month. Growing up in Portland's diverse Richmond neighborhood had shaped my cooking philosophy. My Chinese grandmother, Nai Nai, ran a small noodle shop where she taught me that food was love made visible. When my parents divorced, I spent summers with my Italian godmother in Rome, learning to make pasta from scratch and understanding how simple ingredients could create magic. After culinary school, I worked in high-end restaurants, but always felt constrained by traditional boundaries. When Marcus approached me with funding for a fusion concept, it seemed like destiny. He provided the business expertise and startup capital. I brought the vision and culinary skill. Our early days were magical. Late nights perfecting recipes, the thrill of our first positive review, the pride when regular customers became like family. But as success grew, so did Marcus's ambition to transform us into something more sophisticated. You have until closing tonight to clean out your personal items, Marcus said, straightening his tie. Security will escort you out after service. The lunch rush passed in a blur of familiar motions. I moved through the kitchen like I had thousands of times before, tasting sauces, adjusting seasonings, plating dishes with the precision that had become second nature. My staff worked around me, unaware this was my final service in the restaurant I'd built. Tony, my sous chef, noticed my unusual quiet. "Chef, everything okay? You seem distracted." I forced a smile. Just thinking about tonight's specials. What I was really thinking about was the recipe book locked in my office safe. 28 original creations that had put Bella Rosa on Portland's culinary map. Dishes like my grandmother's Dan Dan noodles with house-made Italian sausage, or the 5-spice duck ragu that food critics called transcendent. Marcus assumed those recipes belonged to the restaurant. He was wrong. As the last customer left, I gathered my personal belongings from the office I'd occupied for 8 years. Photos from culinary school, a worn copy of The Art of Simple Food, awards we'd won together. Everything fit into 2 cardboard boxes, a pathetic representation of nearly a decade of work. Marcus appeared in the doorway with building security, an unnecessary show of force that stung more than the actual termination. "I'll need the safe combination," he said, holding out his hand. "The recipes aren't in there," I replied honestly. They were memorized, variations I'd developed through countless iterations, improvements I'd never written down completely. His confident expression faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" "I mean the recipes that made this place special exist up here." I tapped my temple. "Good luck recreating them." Walking to my car, I passed the dining room one last time. Empty tables that had hosted first dates, business deals, family celebrations. The exposed brick walls that displayed local artists' work. The open kitchen where customers could watch the magic happen. Marcus had already started removing personal touches. The photo wall showing our journey from opening night to James Beard recognition was gone. In its place hung sterile modern art that belonged in a hotel lobby, not a neighborhood restaurant. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend Elena, a food writer for Portland Monthly. Heard about Bella Rosa? Call me. News traveled fast in Portland's tight culinary community. By tomorrow, everyone would know Marcus had pushed me out. Some would sympathize, others would wonder what I'd done wrong. Few would understand the real story. I drove home in silence, already planning my next move. My apartment felt different that evening, like I was seeing it through new eyes. The small kitchen where I'd tested countless recipes, the bookshelf lined with cookbooks from around the world, the dining table where I'd sketched menu concepts late into the night. I poured a glass of wine and called Nai, now 84 and still sharp as her favorite cleaver. "That partner of yours never understood food comes from the heart," she said after I explained what happened. "He thinks cooking is just following instructions." I feel lost, Nai. 8 years of my life, gone. Not gone, child. Transformed, like when we cook, we change ingredients into something better. This is your chance to become something better too. Her wisdom, as always, cut straight to the truth. 3 days passed in strange limbo. Without the restaurant's demanding schedule, I had time to think, to plan, to remember why I'd fallen in love with cooking in the first place. I visited farmers markets, reconnected with suppliers, and started sketching ideas for new dishes. My phone rang constantly. Food bloggers wanting the inside story, former staff members asking what really happened, other restaurant owners offering sympathy and subtle recruitment pitches. The most interesting call came from David Kim, owner of 3 successful Portland restaurants. "I heard what happened," he said. "If you're interested in discussing opportunities, let's grab coffee." Before I could respond to his offer, Elena called with urgent news. "Sophia, you need to see tonight's Oregonian. Marcus gave an interview about the new direction at Bella Rosa." The article made my blood boil. Marcus painted himself as a visionary, saving the restaurant from stagnant traditionalism. He claimed credit for our success while dismissing my contributions as limited execution of basic fusion concepts. The previous chef lacked the innovation necessary for Portland's evolving food scene, he was quoted saying. "We're excited to elevate Bella Rosa with authentic molecular gastronomy techniques." The photograph showed him in the kitchen with Chef Laurent, a thin man with an aggressive mustache who specialized in foam-heavy dishes that prioritized appearance over flavor. They stood beside my pasta station, the one where I'd hand-rolled thousands of sheets of silky pappardelle. My phone started ringing immediately. Friends, former colleagues, even competitors calling to express outrage at Marcus's revisionist history, but their sympathy only highlighted how thoroughly I'd been written out of my own story. Chef Laurent's modern menu launched the following week with great fanfare. Marcus hosted an invitation-only tasting for food writers and local celebrities, positioning himself as Portland's newest culinary visionary. I didn't attend, but Elena did, texting me updates throughout the evening. Mushroom soil with pine essence foam, pretentious, deconstructed pasta, just cold noodles on a plate. Half the guests are confused by the portions. This isn't food, it's art school. The official reviews were mixed. Critics praised the ambitious concept while noting that the dishes prioritized innovation over flavor. Several mentioned missing the soulful warmth that had previously defined Bella Rosa. Marcus spun the lukewarm reception as sophisticated palates adjusting to elevated cuisine. But I noticed the reservation system, once booked solid, now showed plenty of availability. David Kim and I met at a quiet coffee shop in the Pearl District. Successful and unpretentious, he'd built his restaurant group by focusing on quality over flashiness, exactly the opposite of Marcus's approach. "I've been following your career since Bella Rosa opened," he said. "What you did there was special. Real fusion, not the gimmicky stuff most places try." "Thank you. That means a lot right now. I have a proposition. I'm opening a new space in the Alberta district. Smaller than Bella Rosa, more intimate. I need a chef partner who understands that great food doesn't need to shout. He slid a folder across the table. "This is what I'm offering. Full creative control, 40% ownership, your name on everything." The offer was generous, almost too generous. Executive chef and partner at a restaurant David was calling Harmony, smothered with complete menu control and a compensation package that exceeded what I'd made at Bella Rosa. "Why me?" I asked. "You could hire any chef in Portland." "Because you understand something most chefs don't. Food is about connection, not ego. Your dishes at Bella Rosa brought people together. They told stories." I thought about Marcus's cold dismissal, his rewriting of our history, his determination to erase my contributions. Then I looked at David's sincere offer, a chance to start fresh with a partner who valued what I brought to the table. "I need some time to think about it," I said. "Of course, but don't wait too long. I'd like to open by Christmas." That gave me 3 months to decide and to plan. Over the next week, I researched David's operation thoroughly. His restaurants were profitable, well-reviewed, and known for treating staff fairly. Former employees spoke highly of the work environment and creative freedom they'd enjoyed. More importantly, I visited all 3 locations as a customer. The food was excellent, but each restaurant had its own distinct personality. David wasn't trying to clone success, he was creating unique experiences. Meanwhile, reports from Bella Rosa were concerning. Several longtime servers had quit, frustrated by the new menu's complexity and customer complaints. The kitchen was struggling with dishes that required equipment they didn't have and techniques the staff hadn't mastered. Elena sent me photos from recent visits. Plates that looked beautiful but contained barely enough food to satisfy a child. Sauces that had clearly separated. Pasta that appeared overcooked despite being served al dente as molecular interpretation. The breaking point came when Tony called, sounding desperate. As my former sous chef, he'd stayed at Bella Rosa hoping things would improve. "Chef, it's falling apart," he said. "We sent back 3 plates tonight because the foam deflated before reaching tables." Laurent screamed at Maria for asking questions about a technique. "Half the staff is looking for new jobs." "I'm sorry, Tony. I know how much you loved working there. That's not why I'm calling. Marcus is telling people you sabotaged recipes before leaving. He's claiming you deliberately gave wrong measurements to hurt the restaurant." The accusation was absurd, but it stung. I'd never sabotage food, never put my ego above customer experience. But Marcus needed someone to blame for his failing experiment. "He's trying to save face," I said. "The truth will come out eventually." That evening, I made my decision. I called David and accepted his offer, but with one additional request. "I want to hire some of the staff from Bella Rosa," I said. "Good people who don't deserve to suffer for Marcus's mistakes. As long as they're talented and fit our culture, absolutely." The next morning, I reached out to Tony, Maria, and 3 other key staff members. All were interested in joining our new venture. Their enthusiasm reminded me why I'd fallen in love with restaurant work in the first place. The teamwork, the shared mission of creating memorable experiences. David found the perfect space, a former art gallery in Alberta with exposed beams, large windows, and an open kitchen that would let customers see our craft. We began planning immediately, sketching layouts, designing menus, choosing colors and textures that would create warmth without sacrificing sophistication. Word of our new restaurant spread quickly through Portland's food community. Several food writers reached out, eager to cover the story of my comeback. But I asked them to wait until we opened, preferring to let our food speak first. Meanwhile, Bella Rosa's struggles continued. A particularly harsh review in Willamette Week called the food technically ambitious but emotionally empty, comparing it unfavorably to the restaurant's previous incarnation. Marcus responded by doubling down, announcing plans to pursue a Michelin star despite Portland not being a Michelin city. His desperation was becoming obvious to everyone except himself. Elena visited again and reported that the dining room was half empty on a Friday night, previously our busiest service. Several longtime customers had stopped coming, confused by the new direction and put off by pretentious presentation. "He's killing everything you built," she said. 3 months later, Harmony opened to a packed house. We'd kept the marketing simple, focusing on word of mouth and social media posts from our staff. The menu featured 12 dishes, each one telling a story of cultural fusion done with respect and understanding. My signature dish became Nai Nai's Journey, hand-pulled noodles with Italian sausage and Chinese black vinegar, topped with fresh herbs and chili oil. It honored both my grandmother's teaching and my time in Rome, creating something entirely new while respecting tradition. The reviews were unanimously positive. Food critics praised the soulful authenticity and masterful balance of flavors. Customers shared photos of beautifully plated dishes that were also generously portioned and satisfying. Most importantly, the restaurant felt alive. Conversations flowed, laughter echoed from tables, the open kitchen created connection between diners and cooks. 6 months after opening, Harmony had a 2-month waiting list and was being discussed as a serious James Beard contender. Food and Wine featured us in their Best New Restaurants issue, with a photo of me hand-rolling noodles while smiling genuinely for the first time in years. The success felt different than Bella Rosa's rise. This time, I was equal partner with someone who valued my contributions. Every decision was collaborative, every success was shared. Meanwhile, Bella Rosa continued declining. Chef Laurent left abruptly after a heated argument with Marcus over the restaurant's direction. Marcus tried to hire several local chefs, but word had spread about his management style and unrealistic expectations. The final blow came when the Oregonian's restaurant critic wrote a scathing review titled "The Fall of Bella Rosa," documenting how the restaurant had lost its soul in pursuit of meaningless innovation. Marcus called me on a Tuesday evening, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance. Harmony was busy, the kitchen humming with efficient energy as we prepared for our second seating. "Sophia, I need to talk to you," he said. "Can we meet?" "I'm working," I replied, watching Tony perfectly plate a dish of braised short ribs with miso polenta. "What do you want?" "I want to discuss bringing you back to Bella Rosa, as head chef, with full menu control." The offer I dreamed of hearing 8 months ago now sounded hollow. "I have a restaurant, Marcus, one where I'm respected and valued. I made mistakes," he admitted. "I let ego cloud my judgment, but we can fix this together." I met Marcus at a neutral location, curious about his proposal but confident in my position. He looked terrible, thinner, tired, wearing an off-the-rack suit instead of his usual designer clothing. "The restaurant is failing," he said without preamble. "Revenue is down 60%, we're losing money every month." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, meaning it despite everything. "I need you back, your recipes, your vision, your connection with customers. I'll give you whatever you want: salary, equity, complete creative control." I studied my former partner, seeing desperation where confidence used to live. "What happened to molecular gastronomy and modern techniques?" He laughed bitterly. "Turns out people want food that tastes good, not just looks impressive." Who knew? Marcus's offer was comprehensive. 40% ownership, executive chef title, $120,000 salary plus bonuses. On paper it was generous. In reality, it was an attempt to use my reputation to salvage his failing investment. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'm not interested in going backwards." "This isn't backwards, it's coming home. Bella Rosa was your baby too." "Bella Rosa was our baby," I corrected. "Then you killed it and tried to blame me for the funeral. I've moved on." He spent another 20 minutes pleading, offering increasingly desperate incentives. Higher salary, majority ownership, even the option to change the restaurant's name. But his proposals all missed the fundamental point. I didn't want to fix his mistake. I wanted to continue building something new, something that belonged entirely to me and David. Something that couldn't be taken away by a partner's whims. The next morning brought news that surprised even me. The Oregonian reported that Bella Rosa had filed for bankruptcy, unable to meet its obligations to suppliers and landlords. Marcus's gamble on molecular gastronomy had cost him everything. Several former staff members called, asking if I felt vindicated. Truthfully, I felt sad. Bella Rosa had been important to Portland's food scene, and its failure hurt the entire community. But I also felt grateful. Marcus's betrayal had forced me to discover my own strength, to build something better than what I'd lost. Harmony wasn't just a successful restaurant, it was proof that talent and dedication could overcome setbacks. Elena wrote a thoughtful piece about the situation. focusing on how the restaurant industry often undervalues creative contributions. She interviewed several chefs who'd experienced similar situations, creating a broader conversation about partnership and respect. David and I were planning our one-year anniversary celebration when Marcus appeared at Harmony's service entrance. Security protocols should have prevented his access, but he'd somehow talked his way past our delivery checkpoint. 5 minutes, he said, looking haggard. That's all I ask. Against my better judgment, I agreed to listen. We stood in the alley behind our kitchen, the sounds of successful service flowing through the open door. I lost everything, he said. The restaurant, my reputation, most of my savings. I'm moving back to Seattle, starting over in real estate. I'm sorry it ended this way, I replied honestly. Are you? Because from where I stand, it looks like you won everything you wanted. His accusation hung in the cold evening air. Part of me wanted to argue, to explain that success built on someone else's failure felt complicated, not triumphant. But a larger part realized I didn't owe him explanations anymore. I won the chance to do work I'm proud of with people who respect me, I said finally. If that threatens you, maybe examine why. Marcus shook his head, unwilling to accept responsibility even in defeat. You'll never convince me this wasn't planned. Getting fired, the new restaurant, the perfect timing. The only thing I planned was not giving up, I replied. Everything else was just refusing to accept your version of my worth. He walked away without another word, disappearing into the Portland night. I never saw him again. 2 years later, Harmony won the James Beard Award for Outstanding New Restaurant. Standing on stage accepting the recognition, I thought about the journey that brought me there. Betrayal, struggle, uncertainty, and ultimately triumph. In my speech, I thanked David for his partnership, my staff for their dedication, and the Portland community for supporting independent restaurants. I didn't mention Marcus or Bella Rosa, choosing to focus on gratitude rather than grievance. After the ceremony, Nai called from Portland, her voice proud and strong despite her age. Your grandfather would be so happy, she said. You honored our family recipes while making them your own. That night, celebrating with my team at a late-night diner, I reflected on what I'd learned. Success wasn't about proving others wrong, it was about proving yourself right. The best revenge wasn't destroying an enemy. It was building something so beautiful that the destruction became irrelevant. I'd started with nothing but knowledge, determination, and the support of people who believed in me. That had been enough to create something extraordinary. It would always be enough.